The General Hospital spoilers for Tuesday, July 29th, suggest that Curtis Ashford will apologize to Nina Reeves, while Michael Corinthos will be ambushed. Jason Morgan will also throw Liesl Obrecht a surprise. So let's talk about what's coming up on the ABC soap. Willow will be hopeful to see her children again, now that the wedding has been called off. Willow has just arrived at Carly Spencer's house, and Michael will be blindsided by his ex-wife's frantic show. Willow, in a heated state, will point out that she did not marry Drew Kane. Willow will believe that Michael must allow her to see Wiley Corinthos and Amelia Corinthos, but he may not. Willow is a mix of emotions right now, not to mention that she is still wearing her bridal gown and has mascara pouring down her cheeks. Willow doesn't need to be seen like this in front of the kids, so Michael may try to get her to understand. Even if Willow calms down and cleans herself up, Michael may be wary of allowing her to be around Wiley and Amelia again. There may be fears about Drew entangling Willow in his twisted web again. Drew will go seeking for Willow and end up at the Quartermaine mansion. Tracy Quartermaine and Cody Bell will receive updates on the wedding turning into a major disaster, so they'll be relieved Drew's world has fallen. Nina's world has also fallen, although she is relieved that Willow dumped Drew at the altar. Nina will soon meet with Curtis and Portia Robinson to provide information. Curtis will discover that his plan was successful, but it came at a cost, since Willow has turned against Nina. Curtis will apologize to Nina for spilling Nina and Drew's hidden romance. Nina was about to come clean when she realized Willow already knew the truth. The information was bound to be revealed, so Nina may not be too harsh on Curtis, especially because he was attempting to protect Portia from Drew's blackmail. Portia will soothe Nina, who is concerned that Willow would never forgive her for this betrayal. According to General Hospital teasers, Martin Gray will learn some fascinating information. Will Drew divulge his concerns that Willow is Daisy Gilmore's stalker? Could Martin find out something about Monica Quartermaine's letter instead? Jason will seek his own intelligence now that he has located Obrecht following the disrupted wedding ceremony. Liesl will wonder why Jason wants to talk about her Britta, alias Britt Westbourne. Therefore Jason will most likely unveil his Paris airport surprise. Will Obrecht agree with Jason and believe Britt is still alive? Is it possible that Liesl already knows more about Britt than she lets on? Next, Britt will receive an unexpected guest. There will be a mystery man who has not informed Britt that he is on his way, so she will be surprised and uneasy when he arrives. Professor Henry Hank Dalton is an option, but there's another candidate to examine based on the most recent arrivals and departures. Mark Forget will shortly play a character named Pascal in scenes with Britt, so perhaps Pascal may be the one who arrives at her home. Meanwhile, Molly Lansing Davis will launch a Cody-related tirade and inform Alexis Davis that she is done with him. Alexis will immediately learn Christina Corinthos Davis undermined her sister's blossoming relationship with Cody, which will set off some alarms. Even so, Christina will dismiss it as a minor issue, predicting that Molly would shortly move on from Cody. According to General Hospital spoilers, Christina will continue to dig a deeper hole for herself through deceitful maneuvers, so be prepared for the inevitable consequences. General Hospital spoilers say hints of Britt Westbourne's surprising comeback are filling fans' hearts with joy. After years of assuming she was dead, Britt's reappearance could rock the town to its core, particularly Jason Morgan, whose heart once beat for her. With Britt's history riddled with hazardous secrets and Jason's new role as Danny Morgan's dedicated father, might their old spark rekindle, or will her return cause chaos? The fans are ecstatic, anticipating for a Britt-Jason reunion. But is there trouble brewing? Prepare for a week of drama that will keep you hooked. Britt's comeback rekindles hope and suspense. Britt's apparent death left a gap in our favorite city, but GH fans are overjoyed that Kelly Thibault may bring her back, with rumors circling of a dramatic comeback that isn't a fake or a mistaken doppelganger. Britt's history with Jason, which includes hot chemistry and shared secrets, has viewers hoping for a second chance. Her ties to Caesar Faison's WSB plans may complicate matters, especially since Jason has been navigating his own perils while raising Danny. Will Britt's comeback reignite their romance, or does her unexpected homecoming conceal a sinister agenda? Fans are eager to discover if love or betrayal awaits. GH spoilers. Jason faces a blast from the past this week. Jason's world shifted when he spotted Britt in France, bringing innumerable memories to the forefront of his mind. Picture Jason, astonished, as Britt's familiar face evokes recollections of their passionate past. Carly Spencer, Jason's strong protector, may detect danger and urge him to proceed with caution. She wasn't very fond of Britt to begin with, but now that she's dating WSB Chief Jack Brennan, she may view things differently. With Britt's dark family connections possibly linked to her absence, fans worry if her return would draw Jason back into a hazardous web or open up a new chapter in their hearts. General Hospital spoilers. Can Britt and Jason's love survive? When it comes to Britt's stunning return, the stakes could not be higher. Will she and Jason be able to start up where they left off? Or will her secrets, possibly tied to something dark in one of her parents' pasts, jeopardize their shot at love? General Hospital teasers indicate that a preview clip has been released for Tuesday, July 29, 2025. It depicts Britt Westbourne greeting a mysterious man at her door. Meanwhile, Tracy Quartermaine gloats to Drew Kane. Willow Tate furiously begs Carly Spencer and Michael Corinthos. Molly Lansing Davis declaration. Let's get started with Molly Lansing and Cody Bell. Christina Corinthos Davis instilled mistrust in Molly regarding Cody, in order to keep her conspiracy against Ava Jerome working. Then Molly yells about how she will not let Cody use her again. However, that sexy romance novel may raise some doubts. Molly seems to have a type. Tracy Quartermaine gloats over with Tracy. She meets Drew. Drew, still dressed in his wedding suit, is most likely looking for Willow. However, she is not in the Quartermaine mansion. Tracy gleefully asks Drew whether he has already misplaced his bride. Tracy's sense of humor is fantastic. Willow Tate's frantic begging. General Hospital spoilers for Tuesday, July 29 state that the preview film still shows Willow standing at Carly's door. Willow tells Carly and Michael that they must let her to see Wiley and Amelia Corinthos. Willow is anxious and appears to be about to hyperventilate or pass out. Willow, sobbing in her wedding gown, insists that because she did not marry Drew, they must allow her to see the children. Personally, I would not allow anybody in such mental state access to vulnerable youngsters. While Michael did inform Willow that he took the kids due of Drew, there are other difficulties besides the congressman. Willow hasn't made excellent decisions in a long. She requires mental health care before the kids can come near to her again. Not to mention that the children should not be around Willow while she is shaking and freaking out like that. However, Willow may believe that they are using any excuse to keep her away from the children. Willow may turn even nastier as the weeks pass. On Tuesday, July 29, 2025, Christina Corinthos Davis will make a prediction. In another scene, Britt unlocks the door for a mysterious stranger. What's going on? And what's the narrative behind Britt's return? Which narrative are you most looking forward to witnessing on Tuesday, July 29, 2025? Drew Kane had spent too many sleepless hours pacing the corridors of General Hospital, torn between duty, loyalty, and an increasing sense of impotence. Every chat with Willow left him with more questions than answers, her soft gaze concealing something she hesitated to say. She had changed, not just physically but emotionally, since her encounter with death. And now, with Britt's death still looming over Port Charles, something about her final night gnawed at him. Especially the whisper of a mystery guest, who had appeared on the dock just before everything devolved into turmoil. Britt Westbourne's death had shattered the hearts of those who loved her, but Drew was plagued by her final cryptic message. Maxie had remarked it casually, unaware of the significance of her words. Britt appeared agitated just before she departed for the docks, said that someone unexpected was waiting for her, someone she never expected to see again. That was when Drew's senses kicked in, as they always did when something was wrong. Someone from Britt's past had returned, and whomever it was, they were not supposed to be seen or remembered. Drew began digging while the rest of Port Charles continued to grieve Britt, attend fundraisers, and rally behind Willow during her transplant recovery. He located the location of every surveillance camera within 10 blocks of the docks, brick by brick. He bribed the night shift clerk at the motel where Britt had been staying. He questioned a bartender at the Savoy who may have overheard something. All signs pointed to a tall man in a dark cloak, his face obscured, who arrived the night Britt died and vanished before morning. No records, no names, and no traces. The more Drew looked into it, the more personal it became. And when he compared the man's movements to Willow's, something clicked. She'd gone on a walk that evening, which was unusual given her state. She told Michael she was just clearing her mind, but Drew began to suspect it had something to do with Britt's mysterious visitor. The timelines were too close. Could Willow have recognized him? Could she have seen anything she was not supposed to? Drew's fixation with discovering the truth began to leak into his relationships. He became more distant from Carly, irritable with Michael, and overly possessive of Willow. The latter wasn't overlooked. Michael, already dealing with family issues and attempting to protect Willow from stress, grabbed Drew aside one afternoon and asked with veiled displeasure, "What are you doing, man? Why are you hovering over Willow as if she is your responsibility?" Drew did not have a good response. Someone who did not hear the tone of Britt's last voicemail would not understand it. Not one that would explain why Willow's name appeared in a confidential file he saw while investigating Britt's visitor. Victor Cassidy's personal file. The more Drew discovered, the more twisted things grew. Victor had been watching Britt for months before her death, and there were notes hinting that she had something or someone he desired. But now Britt was gone. If the mysterious stranger was one of Victor's operatives, Willow may be in danger. Drew was not going to let history repeat itself. He'd failed Scout before, and he wasn't going to fail Willow again. So he went renegade. Drew used an old WSB source to organize a meeting with an informant who had encountered Victor's men during their European activities. She was hesitant at first, but Drew gave her something she couldn't turn down: a new identity and a safe place outside of U.S. jurisdiction. What she said chilled him to the bone. The man who met Britt was real. His name was Elias Novak, a former mercenary turned private asset for Victor. What was his last known assignment? Drew's stomach dropped at the mention of the daughter. Willow had long believed that Nina was her only family secret. But this implied something far more complex. Elias had not been looking for Britt. He'd been seeking for someone who knew her. Someone who could direct him to a specific target. Drew sent the information to Carly, who agreed to help despite their recent strained relationship. They cornered Nina at Crimson and questioned her about Britt's dying days. Nina, still hurt from the breakdown with Willow, initially accused Drew of trying to cause additional misery for Willow. But Carly's voice broke through the tension. "If you know something that puts Willow in danger, this isn't about you. It's about her life." Nina's expression shifted. She remembered something. A phone conversation she overheard Britt make while they were at the Metro Court bar. Britt's talk had ended abruptly when Nina approached. Nina had just caught a name. Petra. It rung a bell. Drew discovered the connection 3 hours later. Britt's old roommate from medical school in Zurich, Petra, had been working on a genetics project with a German research institution before abruptly dropping off the grid 2 years ago. According to the facility's declassified records, she just detected the presence of a unique genetic marker in one of her donor patients. Drew linked the encrypted ID code to Willow's medical history with the help of Spinelli. Despite the fact that the patient's name had been redacted, everything came full circle. Britt had discovered something regarding Willow's illness that no one else knew. Something made her a target. And then Petra disappeared. Drew was running again, but this time with a purpose. He wasn't just after Elias Novak. He was looking for Petra, the one person who could explain him why Willow's health had worsened so swiftly and why she could be the reason Victor was still tugging strings from the grave. Drew was confident it wasn't about leukemia anymore. It was about lineage, legacy, and power. Meanwhile, Willow sensed something was wrong. Michael was more guarded, Carly was frequently in and out, and Jocelyn began hovering during her visits. At first, she attributed it to her recuperation. But when she found Drew reading through her medical records behind her back, she knew it wasn't just worry. It was terror. She accosted him in the Gij courtyard, her words scarcely audible. "What aren't you telling me?" Drew hesitated. Despite his extensive training and expertise, he had never felt more exposed. He wanted to protect her, but he also realized that keeping her in the dark would only make matters worse. So he told her about Elias, about Petra, regarding the file in Victor's records with her name on it. Willow did not cry. She did not flinch. She simply looked away and answered, "Then we'll find her. Together." She left the next morning. Michael stormed through the hospital demanding answers. Carly looked up every family home within driving distance. Jocelyn scanned through Willow's tablet, looking for any clues in her digital background. Drew, however, received the final breadcrumb. An email from Petra's old encrypted server. Zurich. She's with me. I'll explain everything when you arrive. But come alone. Don't trust anyone, Drew said without waiting. He booked the next flight out, and as the plane departed Port Charles airspace, he realized something was going to change. The past, long suppressed, was emerging anew. And Willow, the woman he had promised to protect for Michael's sake, and possibly his own, was no longer a vulnerable patient. She was in the middle of something deadly, which Britt had attempted to stop before it was too late. Britt Westbourne's return to Port Charles was far from tranquil. Her arrival shook the town like a thunderclap, sending shockwaves through social circles, medical offices, and most significantly, Jason Morgan's already fraught environment. It wasn't just that Britt was back, it was how she returned confident, calm, and with a faint but undeniable fire in her eyes. She held herself with the confidence of someone who had confronted death and survived. Everyone was aware of that. Jason is the least of them all. Word spread rapidly in Port Charles. Within hours of her return to General Hospital, whispers had turned to buzz. Doctors exchanged looks. The nurses could not stop guessing. Even Nina mentioned it in passing at the Metro Court, amazed that Liesel had not said anything. But then again, Liesel Obrecht had a habit of maintaining secrets when it fit her purpose. Whatever the case, Britt was present, and the town was watching. She did not waste time either. Within a day, Britt had met with hospital administrators. Rumors circulated that she was returning in a consultant position, possibly even taking on a limited role at the hospital. Others, however, suggested that something else was going on. Britt was not the same lady who had previously fled her own faults. She had been through more than just her Huntington's diagnosis and final heartbreaking goodbye. She seems to have found inner serenity. She appeared to be ready to write a new chapter. Jason had tried to keep out of the spotlight. Since his return, things had become strained. Carly remained too near for comfort. Sonny remained somewhat wary of his intentions. Drew's presence didn't exactly make matters easy. Jason had returned to his previous routines, assisting Sonny as required, keeping a watchful check on family, and remaining emotionally detached from practically everyone. But Britt's reappearance sliced through that like a knife. He had not seen her. Not yet. But he'd heard. Hearing her name again triggered an emotion in Jason that he was not prepared to tackle. When he eventually spotted her, it was by chance. She was standing at the nurse's station, checking in on a patient file, her hair tied back, her concentration complete. She did not notice him at first. Jason may have walked away. Could have saved them both the unpleasantness of their first discussion. But he did not. He stepped forward and simply stated her name. Britt. She turned, and her face froze for a single second. Then she grinned. It wasn't the flirtatious, exaggerated smile she employed as a weapon. It was authentic. Grounded. A smile that conveyed both melancholy and warmth. Jason, she spoke quietly. I didn't think I'd run into you so soon. Their initial interaction was brief. There is nothing dramatic. Just two folks catching up on surface-level information. But the stillness behind the words was louder. They both knew there was more. Things left unsaid. Emotions buried but not forgotten. After all, their connection did not terminate because it no longer mattered. It ended because Britt forced it to. Her diagnosis, her fear, and her desire not to bother him were the factors that drove her away. But now that he saw her again, Jason couldn't ignore the lingering feelings. Jason was not the only one who felt this way. Carly sensed a shift. She watched from a distance as Jason appeared more distracted than normal. His routines changed subtly. He began visiting General Hospital more frequently under the premise of checking in on a few Corinthos-related issues. But Carly knew him too well. And she despised how Britt's homecoming brought back the insecurities she thought she'd buried. Meanwhile, Britt's interactions with others began to reflect her own emotional metamorphosis. She wasn't being confrontational or defensive anymore. She was still sharp, her wit had not faded, but she appeared softer. Kinder even. She had coffee with Terry without tension. She consulted Finn about a complex matter. She even talked to Maxie about Leo and the Quartermain mess. She was gradually returning to the life she had previously fled. However, the question on everyone's mind was not just about Britt's profession or personal development. It was about Jason. Were they going to find their way back together? It was difficult for both of them. Jason felt guilty not only for what had happened to Britt, but also for his inability to protect those he cared about. His friendship with Sam had crumbled under the strain of that load. His bond to Britt previously provided him with something different, freedom from the past. But now, after everything they'd been through, the question was whether they could offer each other anything more. Britt no longer looked for love to prove her value. She had matured into a self-sufficient individual who valued her time, body, and mind. What about Jason? He was still locked in cycles. He still retained the wounds from years spent as a mob enforcer, guardian, brother, and father figure. Loving someone means jeopardizing their safety. Britt had already been harmed once. Then came the night that altered everything. It was a peaceful evening at Volanino's gym. Jason had just finished manipulating the bag when Britt stepped in, casual and confident, but with a hint of trepidation that she didn't hide. She informed him that she needed to talk. She didn't come back to reignite anything, but she couldn't deny her feelings. And she didn't want to continue pretending. Jason listened. He spoke little. He hardly had to say much. Britt knew when he took a step closer and looked her in the eyes. There was still something there. And this time, there was more than simply unfinished business. It was about two people attempting to determine whether they had the right to want more. Later, they sat silently on a bench outside the gym, with Port Charles buzzing peacefully in the background. Britt discussed her time abroad, including how she spent months with Liesel, how she traveled, and how her disease symptoms had temporarily plateaued. She wasn't healed, but she wasn't collapsing either. She had time. Perhaps not for years, but enough to live on her own terms. Jason asked if she was afraid. She nodded. Yeah, but I'm more terrified of disappearing without accomplishing something meaningful. Jason understood this better than others. In the weeks that followed, their paths met more intentionally. They shared some coffee, long discussions, late-night stroll on the docks. There were no declarations, no hurried decisions, just an unfolding. Carly stood on the sidelines watching and processing. Sonny kept his opinions to himself. Drew gave Jason room. Sam, surprisingly, provided quiet support when Britt and Scout happened to be in the same room. It was complicated, but no one expected otherwise. Even the hospital staff, accustomed to upheaval and turnover, began to adjust to Britt's presence again. She showed a specific interest in guiding a few interns. Her sarcasm was intact, but she used it with grace. She gave a lecture on unusual neurological illnesses, and the residents hung on every word. She was back. Not only physically but also emotionally. Then followed a decision that surprised even her closest allies. Britt applied to be co-chief of staff with Terry. It was brazen, unexpected, and it delivered a clear message. She was not here for a brief visit. She was planting roots. For Jason, this made things more real. Britt was not passing through. She was rebuilding. And if he wanted to be a part of it, he had to go outside of his emotional comfort zone. He had to make a decision. He was not prepared to say the words. Not yet. But he started to show up more. He welcomed her into his universe in ways he hadn't done with anyone in years. They sat through Scout's dance recital together. He took her to the Courtemain estate one afternoon, and despite her reservations, Monica greeted Britt with polite curiosity.